Thank you for coming this evening for this discussion in collaboration with the Atlanta Art Week. Atlanta Art Week celebrates the visual arts here in Atlanta and was founded by art advisor Kendra Walker in 2022 with lead partner Sutton. And Atlanta Art Week aims to create a dynamic environment that brings together galleries, artists, curators, collectors, and art enthusiasts to promote cultural exchange, education, economic development, and art appreciation. So thank you, Kendra, and all that she has done for Atlanta with Atlanta Art Week. So I now want to introduce Candida Fellow, Kiran Kapileshwari, to come up and say a few words about this incredible piece of art that we are in tonight, called the Candida Building.
Welcome, everyone, to the Candida Building for Innovative Sustainable Design, one of the most environmentally advanced buildings in the world. I'm a third-year mechanical engineering student here, and I just wanted to say a few things about this building to set the scene for your wonderful panel discussion and reception here tonight. This building goes beyond sustainability and into regenerative design principles. In essence, the building gives back more than it takes to the environment and to humanity. The Candida Building was the 28th building in the world to achieve the Living Building certification, one of the most ambitious and holistic green building certification programs out there. The entire project site functions like a forest. It produces virtually no stormwater runoff, and it manages its waste on site. It also generates more energy than it consumes each year, just over 200%. During construction, we diverted more waste from the landfill than we sent to it, which is a big deal here. And our automatic foam flush composting toilets only use 3 ounces of water per flush, and they turn human waste into fertilizer on site. Just another example of taking something that could be harmful and turning it into something that benefits us all. I mentioned that the certification program is holistic, and holistic is a very important word here. Sustainability is certainly about conserving energy and water, but we need more than just preserving resources to have a truly sustainable future. What about human health and happiness? What about equity? What about beauty and art? Maybe we can keep the human species going for another million years, but what if those humans are sick, miserable, and have no way of expressing themselves, suffer from discrimination? And to see the result of another's expression, that doesn't sound like a sustainable future to me. Discussions about art in the digital age need to happen, especially in buildings like this. So welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Kiran. It's really a pleasure to be in this building tonight. So tonight's panel, titled Reimagining Creativity, a conversation about AI, data, and robotics in art, will feature artists working at this intersection here at Georgia Tech, and is moderated by Jason Freeman, who is the interim Associate Vice Provost for the Arts here at Tech, and he is also a professor in the School of Music. He has developed educational interventions that integrate music and computing to broaden and increase engagement in STEM disciplines, such as with EarSketch, a project Jason co-founded which is a web-based learning platform that teaches coding through music composition and remixing. So I want to give a special thanks to everyone involved in this panel, and for these arts and tech initiatives, Atlanta Art Week, and all the entities here at Georgia Tech. And I want to give a special thanks to my team who is leading the charge in creating an art and tech hub here at Georgia Tech, and those members are Jason Freeman, Avital Shira, Michelle Powell, Maria Ward, Susan Gilstrap, and Ashani Spanier. So please find them or myself afterwards if you want to talk more about these art and tech initiatives. So the artist for the panel today will be Dr. Boyana Ginn, who is an award-winning interdisciplinary artist former medical doctor and scientist, now working at the intersection of art, science, and technology. So Bojana's journey from medicine to the arts is a testament to her belief in the healing power of creativity, and her work transcends traditional boundaries, advocating for health as a fundamental human right and exploring the body and landscape in the context of digital and biotechnological advances and climate change. So she's currently the library's artist in residence here, and the library's artist in residency program is directed by Catherine Mancy and is in its third year. This program enhances and expands the current educational experience through arts-based programming as it relates to STEM fields. So our next panelist is Dr. Nora Howell, who is an assistant professor in digital media in the School of Literature, Media, and Communication, with an adjunct assistant professorship appointment in the College of Computing and the School of Interactive Computing. So Nora's research has been funded by the NSF Career Award, a Google TensorFlow Faculty Award, and Ralph E. Powell Jr. Faculty Enhancement Award. And so Nora applies her research to create interactive and immersive art, such as we'll hear about tonight. And then lastly, we have Samuel Thurman, who is an architectural designer, 4D filament artist, and AI generative designer, who explores the intersection of technology and tradition through his work. With a background in architecture and a master's in architecture from Georgia Tech, Samuel combines cutting-edge techniques with a deep interest in artistic existentialism and the search for meaning. Thurman is currently part of Georgia Tech's CreateX program, which helps fund students and their entrepreneur passions. So, and if you want to stay in touch with us, please scan the QR code on your desk, and you can update your email and your name, and we'll keep in touch. So without further ado, I'd like to invite the panelists up to the chairs for our panel discussion. So thank you.
I feel like we should have been up here at the beginning.
Hi, everybody. Thanks again for coming tonight, and thank you so much to our panelists for being here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I want to start just by asking you each a little bit to prompt you to tell us a little bit about your work. And Bojana, we'll start with you. So you are one of the third, I think now, artist in the library's Artist in Residence program here at Georgia Tech. So I'm really curious in learning more about what you've been doing. I understand your residency is coming to a conclusion soon. And so if you tell us a little bit more about what you've done here and how it relates to your practice and some of the themes that have been really important throughout your career around ideas of wellness and sustainability and, of course, technology. And then tell us about the work you've created here, how you made it, and what we can expect from you at the Atlanta Art Fair and to be coming into the library.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for coming and supporting us. So I've been working on this intersection of art, science, and technology for maybe 16, 17 years. And it was always important to me as an artist to create work that reflects the time in which we live. And it's a time of this like unprecedented proliferation of digital technology. It's a time of global warming when sustainability is so important. And living in the United States and having a background in medicine, promoting healthcare as a human right, it's something very important to me in my art, but also privately as a citizen. So being a part of this residency at Georgia Tech, it's been a fantastic experience that I would recommend to anybody who is interested in these intersections to apply. So I am creating several bodies of work. While I am here, supposed to be like a part-time position, but I was like, I am going to do this more than full-time and use every resource that I can. And that's what I've been doing and just enjoying it very much. So I'm going to start with the sculptural work that's going to be exhibited at the art fair at Georgia Tech booth. couple of years ago, a friend of mine came to me. He's an architect, and he told me about AI program, Midjourney, that you can use to create visual art or design. And I was intrigued. For me, technology is like a material, right? It's constantly changing, and I just gave myself this role that I'm gonna check it out. Whatever comes, I'm gonna kind of try to make something with it. Not because I love technology, I actually don't. I would live happily in 80s forever, but I just didn't want to stay behind, right? I wanted to kind of be a part of conversation and push myself. So I decided to try out AI, and immediately it was clear that it's very powerful, that you can do anything. I think it's very helpful for marketing or for businesses, but I was like thinking, how can I create something that reflects me as an artist that in some way looks like my previous work? Another thing was with AI, you can imagine whatever you want, right? You can put your work in any space that you want, which is usually very hard for artists, right? So for me, I very much love neoclassical architecture in Europe, and physically to get my work in there would be very hard. So, but to imagine it, I imagined, these large shapes, and I saw also that you can't easily make it to do what you want to do, right? You actually have a background in art, whatever your profession is. So for me, I had to use some prompts from art theory, from architecture, from biology, like biomimicking, parametric forms, even Voronoi tessellations, which is more mathematical. And suddenly I start getting these results that I really like. And I probably got thousands of them, right? Because you make it so fast. But I wanted to create kind of coherent body of work that reflects me. So I chose maybe 20, 25 images. And then I decided to actually try to build them, not just to leave it as a digital art, but to try to build them physically. I often talk about my work as phygital, being both physical and digital. Anyways, this is where Georgia Tech comes, right? So when I came here, I was hoping that maybe I will find a bioplastic material, because I like working with thermoplastics. They look like glass, but glass is very fragile, it's very heavy. I don't like the process. The plastic is much easier, but I wanted something sustainable, right? Bioplastic is still not available for people like me. It's very expensive. They don't have it in big sheets. So then I was thinking, well, maybe there's a plastic that can be recyclable. And that's the material that I found. It's a PETG, and people are using it here, right? So if you have a little small pieces, you can just recycle them. But then I went even further, because I constantly research and read books about sustainability. And there's an amazing book that I would like to recommend to everybody. It's called Regenesis: How Synthetic Biology Can Actually Solve Many Problems. And I know I'm talking a long time, but there's a lot of work. So you don't have to ask me any more questions. Anyways, I find this process that there's these fungi, right, that can biodegrade plastics. Students from Yale University actually discovered that. There's a Latin name somewhere. It's too small even for glasses. But this fungi can just eat plastic in anaerobic conditions. There's a similar organism, which is basically oyster mushroom, a mushroom that we can eat, that can do the same thing. And that's what I wanted to do. I was envisioning inoculating this sculpture with fungi, and then what fungi does, it digests it, and it turns it into this kind of bio-leather. And I just thought, wouldn't that be amazing, to have a sculpture that molecularly transforms itself into something organic. So when I came to tech, I actually discovered that there are students here in the lab that works with these mushrooms and creates these processes. And I want to give them cheer like to Anastasia Devlin, Maya Love Greisbaum, and Benjamin Collins. They've been helping me with this. So that's something that you're going to see at the art fair and here. But wait, there's more. I'm trying to go fast. So there's a second work that I'm going to have. It's a IMZ, Interactive Media Zone. We have this huge digital screen, like long probably as this room is. And I am going to, again, collaborate with a student, Supratim Pait, to create immersive, interactive video where the imagery is infused with the science of wellness, like frequencies of colors that project wellness, movements that have a rhythms of deep breath. So everything is kind of finely tuned. And we will have a station where you can like touch screen with your finger, and your heartbeat and levels of oxygen in your body will co-create art that is going to be displayed all around. So that's those three bodies of work you're going to see.
That's incredible. I know you said I don't have to ask you any more questions, but I have to ask you more questions. So,
okay.
So what I'm really fascinated by is this process you're describing where, you know, there's your role as the artist is very important at the beginning because you're designing the prompts that are going into generating these images.
Yes.
Then it becomes very important again with the kind of the filtering, the selection out of, you know, however many thousands of things come out of the system.
Yes.
Kind of choosing what you think is representative of the set of work you care about. And then of course, in this very incredible way, then manifesting these as physical sculptures and then turning them into this organic material. And so I'm curious about kind of, in that whole process as you go through all those stages, clearly, there's this importance that the AI has in this one stage of it.
Yes.
But do you see kind of the work of art, is this all just a process leading to the final thing that we see? The fungi and the AI and all of that, and that we really just should appreciate this for what it is that product in and of itself? Or how much does this process and the different output steps that happen along the way and our ability to kind of trace that through, how much is that an important part of how you hope people understand and appreciate your work?
Yes, I think it's both. I think process is very important. Often artists reveal their process, and then the process becomes art itself, especially in performance art. Something that I used to do before, like I would create performances where I create art and the creation of it becomes art itself. I think right now, I'm talking here about the process, but I am not sure. Well, we will have some text that accompanies the work, where it will be a hint that these are AI-inspired imagery. So I think it will be clear, but what people are going to see will be more like a final object or video or another process where actually visitors will be able to interact. But I think art, for me, is a process. All of it is a process. It's kind of like scientific lab. You're always trying to figure out something new. You're always changing. New technologies are coming, new ideas. I believe art is like constantly moving. So you can just kind of freeze it in these events where object comes, right?
Yeah, what strikes me so much about this is that, in our broader world around us, so much of the conversation about AI image generation, things like that, is about it being a replacement for something, or
Yeah.
we use it to generate a social media meme or a marketing image or whatever else we might need. But as you said so eloquently earlier, it's really just another tool, and not even a tool that you jump to, but one that you embrace somewhat reluctantly, but it helps you to achieve an end here that's part of a much more complex process that's embedded in your work. And I wanted to highlight that before I move on about how much I appreciate and admire that that aspect to your orientation towards technology.
Thank you so much. I would just add that till this moment, but maybe we even past the moment, AI was a tool. And I kind of want to paraphrase Noah Ferrari, Yuval Noah Ferrari. He wrote a book, Sapiens, I would recommend, and some other books. He's a great philosopher and a writer. And he said something that AI is becoming not just a tool, but the agent. As its intelligence grows, and it grows rapidly, it will have a mind of its own. And we actually don't know what's going to happen. And totally okay with art. For me, I don't care. But when it comes to politics or marketing, I think it's an interesting conversation.
Great. Well, thanks very much. We'll come back to you later. But for the moment, I want to move on to Sam and talk about some of your design work. So there's themes that you tackle in your studio around things like challenging perceptions, advancing human consciousness, and promoting harmonious living through things like the lamps that we saw in the lobby here, and the chairs that we'll see at the Atlanta Art Fair and that are on the image right behind us. But to continue with this theme of AI a little bit, AI is very important as a part of your design process. So I'm wondering how you address the goals that you're trying to achieve aesthetically and artistically in your work with AI and through AI.
Yeah, so with artificial intelligence, it's a very touchy subject. It's very controversial, as you all know. There's a lot of potential out there. There's a lot of unknowns. I'm an architecture student. I actually just graduated with my MArch, and I'm in the urban design program right now, getting my second master's. In my undergrad, I had a few chair projects that were genuinely atrocious, and I really love chair design for the most part. But as I got to tech, I was really interested in doing something beyond architecture. My second semester was the Portman competition, and I got second place in the Portman Prize designing a partial cap system for the 8575 connector. And that's what led me to the urban design project. And in between that, I developed this lamp series. And I just want to say that everything I've done here, I've done alongside my student body work and part-time jobs. And it's been really hard getting all these lamps built and staying committed to an entrepreneurial passion. And the root in what I'm trying to do with artificial intelligence and the work that I'm providing comes around the systems that I've built around them. So if you guys don't know, I'm doing AI-inspired chair design and furniture design that should lend into more furniture in the future, but right now I'm just focusing on chairs. And my process is I use Midjourney images or 2D generated images from different softwares. I get the forms. I've generated around 65,000 chairs at this point. And I honestly wouldn't call myself an artist at that. I'm a prompt engineer and a curator. I wouldn't claim that I am designing these chairs. I'm just picking them out, sorting them, and modeling them. But when I talk about these systems, I'm talking about how to market, how to sell the chairs, because that's very important. It's something we have to be very mindful about. Artificial intelligence is very dangerous. It can deceive people. It can trick people in lots of different ways, and I don't want to trick people. I don't want to take advantage of people. I think the root of what I'm trying to do with artificial intelligence can only be done with positive intentions, trying to do something good with them. And essentially that led me to figure out over this hard summer of CreateX. So if you guys don't know, CreateX is an entrepreneurship program at Georgia Tech, and I entered it as an artist. I was one of the only design students in there. It's very hard to start your own business as a student, period, but it's very hard to start your own business as an artist, especially while you're in school. But artificial intelligence is an incredible tool, and I was having a lot of fun exploring it. I knew there's a lot of potential there, and so I just kept doing it. And through CreateX, I was doing market research and talking to artists, talking to people who sold very, very nice designer furniture. And actually, it was Bernie who really helped me put this all together. But we were trying to figure out how to get my chairs in the fair. And essentially, in that process, we were sitting in my lab, and I had all my lamps. And those lamps that you guys see, that was just a personal side project. That was something that I was just super passionate about. I felt very connected to the designs there, and I really wanted to see it through. We were in there trying to figure out how to get the chairs to work. And I was like, can we maybe show some of my lamps? We ultimately couldn't, but we could show them off here, and I'm super grateful for it. But it was at that moment when I realized I didn't need to make money off selling these chairs. I can make money off selling my lamps. That can sustain me, that can let me be. And those lamps are my own design. I'm super proud of it. I wouldn't say I'm designing these chairs that I'm selling. I'd say that I'm curating them, and I'm the person who built the process around getting the chairs to be manifested. So I'm starting one of the first AI legitimate art brands selling this furniture, and the shtick is that they're all built by hand, and all the profits go to the people who build them. So when I was talking about this positivity and this like mindfulness with this AI, I was just trying to figure out how to use it responsibly, because artificial intelligence does have a lot of danger, and I just didn't want to be the artist or somebody who took advantage of it. And there's many ways to use it. Like Boyana, you took some of your old art and reinterpreted it through the artificial intelligence. I think that's awesome. It actually inspired me to try to do something with my lamps through that, and I got some cool forms. But going back to the processes, these chairs wouldn't have actually been able to survive any other way. And I found this out through the creative process and research that I did. People would not support artificial intelligent products, design products, if they profited from it in like an unethical way. So essentially when I figured that out, it gave me it was almost like a big aha moment. Like it was like, this is the way. And so essentially all my chairs are hand built in India. All the profits go to the people who build them. And I'm really excited. It just gave me an opportunity to explore a lot of artificial intelligence, explore the potentials there. And it's combined in with my lamp project. They're very much juxtaposed. So I guess one thing I'll say is the profits from the chairs are supposed to preserve the lifestyles of the people who are building them. And so those lifestyles have been challenged for a long time. It's been difficult for a lot of handmade or handicraftsmen to make a lot of profit or to have a comfortable living situation, especially in the place that my chairs are being built. This will give them an opportunity to preserve the hand craftsmanship. And I think that's a really cool opportunity, but it juxtaposes my lamps really well because they're kind of opposites as projects. I designed the lamps, AI designed the chairs, a robot built the lamps, they're 3D printed, and human hands build the chairs. Some people would look at artificial intelligence as something that's sort of arcane or Wicked. People are definitely afraid of it. Obviously, there's tons of potential there, but we honestly don't know what it could bring. With the lamps, the base influence of the design is sacred geometry. And so like there's something very, very natural, very fundamental, and I think it's very positive. I think they are really cool projects to have. I'm very proud to have them, very happy to share. And ultimately the goal around the chair project, just to like close off, is I want to bring mindful awareness to artificial intelligence in the art field. I used it as an extension of myself. I had very genuine positive intentions, and I hope to keep them. We need to force the market to meet a higher standard here. If we don't have this conversation now, if we don't make this known, then people are going to take advantage of it, and we're going to have unethical art everywhere, and I just think that's very dangerous. So I felt very connected to this mission. I feel amazed that I'm here representing Georgia Tech as a student. This isn't a place where I thought I would be like 2 years ago, but if you just work really hard and stay committed and have faith, things can happen. And who knows, I want to sell a whole bunch of chairs and do a whole lot for the communities I'm working with, and I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. That's really exceptional to hear, Sam, not just about your process, but about the deep thought that's gone into it. And it's particularly interesting to think about it in comparison to Boyana's work, in that you both are really at this intersection between the physical and the digital, between the AI and the handcrafted elements here. But you've approached it in terms of this process orientation in such different ways because you have very different goals that you're trying to achieve. We will come back to you as well, but for right now, I want to move on to Nora. And Nora, I think your work dovetails with a lot of the themes that we've been talking about already, maybe less in the realm of AI, at least with this piece, and more in the realm of a much less controversial topic around data and ethics and privacy. Yes, that was supposed to be a joke, thank you. Really looking, the way that you look at biosensory data, the way you think about emotion recognition, and the way you reflect on technologies that are, for better or worse, in widespread practice all around us, and the way you try to bring awareness to that, but to really serve very different ends through your work, through things such as Heart Sounds Bench. I'm wondering if you could just say a little bit about those motivations and how these themes kind of played into your conception of the work, and tell us, since we don't have it here to interact with ourselves today, just tell us a little bit more about how it works when people go up and sit down.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm super happy to be here and so happy to be in conversation. These fascinating topics of like, what is the role of AI in supporting creativity, and how do we do that in a way that really critically finds ways of doing things ethically with AI as well. Yeah, that relates to a lot of my thoughts that went into this project. So my work focuses on biodata. Biodata is a broad umbrella term for all the different kinds of data that are being collected about our bodies and behaviors in everyday life, whether that's a fitness tracker that measures step counts or heart rate, or facial recognition technology, or even analyzing tone of voice. And building on this biodata, emotion recognition technology, also increasingly known as emotion AI, so another kind of AI we can talk about here, claims to use this biodata to reveal people's true feelings or their true emotions. For example, facial recognition technology might analyze, is this person smiling? That could indicate happiness. Or a heart rate sensor, that data could be analyzed to indicate whether someone is feeling calm and relaxed, or whether their heart is pounding and they're really agitated, whether in a good way or a bad way, maybe a little ambiguous. This is being used in a variety of applications. Tech companies have used emotion AI to try to predict who is a good or bad job candidate, to try to predict who might be a security threat, or to try to partially automate therapy. So this technology is being widely deployed, and companies are proposing it for a lot of different use cases. I think many of these are being critiqued for the ethical problems they raise. underlying a lot of these motivations are these kind of good claims. Emotion AI claims to make everyone happier, safer, more productive. Emotions are so complicated. Feelings are messy. They just want to provide these clear, transparent, actionable insights. And taking that into a context that inspired the Heart Sounds Bench, smart city visions also are like, cities are really messy and complicated, and they try to use data to optimize the city and help cities be safer, happier, more efficient. A lot of these motivations are, worthy goals, perhaps, but I think as I'm seeing on many people's faces here, feelings are complicated, and sometimes you have to work with that. Similarly, this widespread data collection can too easily turn into harmful top-down surveillance. So that's the context that inspired the Heart Sounds Bench. The Heart Sounds Bench takes these thoughts about emotion AI and smart city visions and imagines a very different way of working with data. So the Heart Sounds Bench, 2 people can sit on the bench, use one of these red handles to listen to their heart sounds, and you feel both people's heart sounds vibrating the bench and emanating into the surrounding environment. So the heart sounds are a really powerful form of biodata that are used in a medical context often. Could probably teach us more about that, Boyana. Similar to the step rate, the heart rate that fitness trackers are analyzing. So it is a form of biodata, but it's taking a very different approach than what we talked about before. Instead of this top-down surveillance, people encounter each other on the bench face to face. Instead of encouraging efficiency or productivity, benches really invite, sitting back a while, relaxing, taking a breather. Instead of encouraging people to analyze the sounds, they're just kept in sound form. Instead of having a data graph that you look at, you just listen to the sound. So it's more about listening over analysis. And instead of seeking a kind of like clear, actionable, transparent insight with the data, it's just about appreciating the vibrancy and presence of another human being. So trying to take these ideas of presence, appreciation, vibrancy, and meeting people face to face, and how might those be ways that can help rethink what we use data and AI to promote.
So I'm really curious, can you tell us a little bit about how people choose to engage with the bench, or what they tell you about their experiences afterwards, and kind of what you've learned? You've laid out the concept really well, but I'm curious how it translates into practice.
Yeah. So I think the best way to understand how people experience the Heart Sounds Bench is to come to the Atlanta Art Fair and check it out in person. There's no one right or wrong way to experience the bench. But I was really fortunate to get to invite a lot of people to experience the bench and then kind of pick their brains about it for like an hour and ask them what they thought about it. So based on that, people often described, I invited pairs of strangers to come in and experience the bench together. And they described a kind of strange sense of, it's kind of a little bit intimate to have someone hear your heart sounds, but they didn't really know this person. But what emerged out of that was kind of this sense of life affirmation. So obviously it's like factually obvious that both people on the bench are alive, but it was really a way to be mindful and appreciate that kind of shared living, breathing presence of another.
And then I'm curious, since we've kind of, a growing theme that has been emerging in our conversation across the panelists today has been about some of the, the broader ethical issues around AI or data or technology more broadly. And you framed a fairly dark dystopian world that we live in as some of the motivation behind this. How do you feel like your artistic practice and this work in particular, like does it have a mission to try to change hearts and minds? Sorry, no pun intended there. What do you hope to? Is there an external goal to accomplish, or is just creating these moments where we can reflect and make these connections enough?
That's a really good question. I think I do have a goal. I mean, I know the Heart Sounds Bench is one piece. It's not, it's not changing the way AI is built, but I hope it can suggest alternative ways of dealing with data and dealing with AI. So I think what art has the potential to do is suggest these alternative uses for emerging technology. So with the Heart Sounds Bench and a lot of my other work, it's about using data and AI for appreciation as a way of like really paying attention and appreciating something else. And of course, scientists already do this all the time. Scientists go through painstaking labor to collect data about the thing that they're obsessed with because they appreciate it so much, you know. So this is already happening, but I think sometimes with AI, the narrative is a little bit different. It's about, we'll simplify the whole process, you don't even have to think about it, and we'll just give you some insights to optimize things. So really encouraging people to stick more with the way that data can be a way of appreciating what's around us, rather than optimizing.
Yeah, that's great, thanks. I want to ask a very different kind of question. I'm going to pose it to all three of you in turn. So we're sitting here at Georgia Tech, and most of you here are either have some connection to Georgia Tech, or at least you're familiar with the institution. And Georgia Tech was founded to really be a technologically centric university, and that's still very much a part of our culture here, though we've evolved in a lot of exceptional ways over the last couple of generations. But I'm really curious for the three of you, kind of how you see at a technologically centric university like Georgia Tech, what is the role of art here? Why is it really important that the arts have a big presence here within the institution? And then conversely, why is it really important that Georgia Tech has a big presence in the arts? So another way of thinking about this is kind of, what do the arts do for Georgia Tech, for us as an institution and a community? And what do we do with our weird ways of looking at the world and thinking about it to artistic practice? So kind of two directions to
I
all on
can
this.
say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
I don't think the arts need Georgia Tech at all. They're doing fine right now. But honestly, like, we have incredible minds here who understand how to use the technology that a lot of artists don't know how to do. So I really think there can be a gap that's bridged with the programs that we add here, where essentially we like empower artists to their full potential using like masters of technology. There's lots of potential with the tech here. I built all these lamps with just a 3D print lab, and there's way more advanced tech that we can work with. And so I think that's one big door that could be open.
And do you see these, like that Georgia Tech is a source of technical expertise, or that kind of collaborations can emerge between someone that's very technologically savvy, but has a limited understanding of the art world, and vice versa through those connections? I
think it can be both ways. I think there's lots of creative ability within the scientific community. It's not worshipped. From my perspective, people at Tech, or at least some students, primarily engineers and computer scientists, they don't appreciate the arts as much, but there's also a strong community that feels like that's lacking here and is looking for that. And so I think just by bringing an art community or bringing an art degree, it can help fill that role and help give those people an outlet for creative passions. But I think Tech needs to be careful and not make a gimmicky or a not impactful art degree. I think Tech has the potential to do something amazing with our technology, and we need to lean into that and not try to be something else. I could see that happening, and a lot of students being let down with the education they get because they don't think it's applicable or it helps them in the art field. Like, if somebody gets a art degree from Tech, we want it to be respected, not laughed at. I think that's very important.
Great, thanks, Sam. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. While you were talking,
thanks, Brianna.
Something came to me. Well, there have been lots of studies, actually, that have been done about what happens when we include art into STEM. It's been going on for like more than a decade now, right? And what they found that it increases creativity, collaboration, inventiveness, and one of the big subjects is visualization. That it's so important now because the knowledge just gets bigger and bigger and more at the same time more specialized. So we see visual representation on complex subjects and concepts actually spreads the information much faster, especially put to the public, but also in between disciplines. I am definitely somebody who believes in it. I think I am very jealous of your students that are going to come here in a couple of years. And I mean, I cannot imagine how fantastic it would be for me if I had an elective during my medical school to try to incorporate art. Because I think actually that we miss humanities. I think that we become one-dimensional when we are just artists or when we are just engineers or scientists. We can just kind of talk with our own people, right, about our own subject. I think it's just fantastic to experience life in new ways and new flavors. I think it's a fantastic idea. I think it's hard to predict what's going to happen because just in 3 years, technologies are going to be different. Artists can do different things with those technologies. I really think that actually students who think that they don't need art could be surprised. Because art is, it's a visual art, but there's music and you have that on tech. There's film. We are such a visual culture. So I think it's a win-win situation. I also see some of my colleagues who might be, well, I know it's impossible, but they might be better artists than I am. But I know that if they know what I know, like a concepts, right? Because concepts can drive visuals in such interesting places, just like evolution. Evolution is basically all these little smart molecules just repeating and modulating themselves, and suddenly you have this amazing biodiversity, right? So concepts are just so important. I think that artists would gain from knowing more of what's happening, but I think scientists too just introduce a little play, a little something that you read that can kind of trick user experience, right? Knowing about psychology of color. I think there's so much that can cross-pollinate.
I'd like to add something else real quick.
Yes,
Sure.
go ahead.
Please go ahead.
It would add such a fun dimension to tech. There's a lot of seriousness around the school. Students take their studies very serious and they study very hard. And there's not that much opportunity for freedom or expression or to just go out and I feel super grateful to have these labs and to have the access to what I do right now at Tech. But with what's being proposed at the Arts Center, it would be like an amazing place to hang out. It'd be an amazing place to just take a break, and that ability to express yourself is more than relaxing. Mm-hmm. It can recharge you more than like a nap or just like looking at your phone. I think that's a very underrated part to the arts, and I think that's something a lot of tech students would learn if we had a center like that. So super big.
That's great. I want to go on to Nora.
Yeah, happy to chime in. In my experience, my undergrad degree was in software engineering, but then since then I've gravitated more towards art. But to me, the two never really seemed that different. Engineers are always trying to make stuff and to figure out new techniques for making stuff. Artists are also very creative, always trying to figure out how to make stuff and new techniques for making stuff. I think that arts and engineering are much more similar than they let on most of the time. They're both very creative, and combining arts and STEM can advance a range of disciplines. I think it helps facilitate these kinds of interdisciplinary conversations, this interdisciplinary creativity, cross-pollinating ideas to accelerate innovation. And I think one of the things that I am most excited about for that is student success. So getting students working together on challenging, creative, open-ended prompts in teams. Making a project that's not clearly defined up front. They have to be creative and figure out what to do. That's a skill that will serve students in any career path that they choose. So I think that that's something I've observed in interacting with students. Some students really need that kind of like step-by-step process, formula, instructions, and that's great. And I think a lot of engineering disciplines work that way in education. But a lot of engineering in real life is these kinds of more open-ended creative problems. And that's where arts practice and the creative thinking that's so common in the arts can really accelerate STEM fields and engineering innovation too.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing the perspectives from the three of you is really incredible right now. And so much of this, I think, is that, especially at the undergraduate level, students, not just at Georgia Tech, but all around the country, feel this pressure to be increasingly career-oriented from the moment they arrive on campus. Yeah. And I hear from so many students here that for whom art is an incredibly important part of their lives. And they get here and they feel like it's not supposed to be anymore. And so, the ways that you're talking about, Nora, the ways that you're talking about, Sam, of finding ways to integrate it into your life, whether it's something that you're majoring in, or it's something that you're doing for fun, or it's something that works its way into a class of yours, is so important for health and well-being. It's so important for continuing to develop those skills that are going to be critical no matter what career you ultimately want to choose and pursue. And finding those spaces and giving our, members of our community the permission to make art and be artists and and embrace that is so much of what I hear in your responses, and that's just wonderful to hear from all of you. I think that we have time. Maybe no. Do we? I'm looking to Bernie here. Do we have time for just a couple questions?
We have time for a couple of questions.
A couple quick questions from the audience here. And I think I'll just come around to you so that everyone can hear you.
All right. So my undergraduate degree is in painting. I'm a graduate from your department in 2001, a master's. From there, I went to work for a company called Virtually Better that started here at Georgia Tech. We pioneered virtual reality to treat anxiety disorders using visuals. So to answer your question, science and technology and art are the same. I worked there. I was a creative director at Virtually Better. I worked there 20 years, and we succeeded in treating anxieties. We were funded by NIH and NIDA and so on, and we were successful in treating all the phobias. All the phobias are learned. They can be unlearned. We started treating addictions. Those are harder. But all the phobias are treatable, and we've written many, many papers on it. So how does that work where technology and art, are they divorced? No, that's what we use to treat these things, number one. And number two, I wanted to ask you, in so doing what we were doing, we use artificial intelligence. I mean, we programmed it. So our department was animators, video, programmers, artists, illustrators. And we actually programmed the AI. I personally don't see any danger at all with AI. The danger is us humans.
As always.
Us humans. And so my question to you guys is, how are you using AI to make your art? We used to have to actually, write it, program it all and so on, and then it would go from programming, you would go to animation and so on and so forth. What is the process that you guys use? When you're saying you're using AI to make the chairs, or is it a program?
It's a written, yeah. I think we both use Midjourney, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we'll turn this over to the panelists briefly, but thank you so much for sharing your experience as well.
Thank you.
It's definitely a workflow. I could tell you like a literal answer, I could give you a metaphorical answer. Everything is like intention. It's all about where you're trying to lead it. That's how people do bad things with AI, and that's what we're trying to avoid. But specifically, I do prompt engineering. I've made about 500 different prompts and like typed out sentences. So it's sentence structure that the software interprets. And by tweaking it ever so slightly over and over and over again as you get towards something that you want, then you found it. And once you've found it, you just hammer it over and over and over again. Try and iterate and get closer to what you're looking for. And then then it comes to materializing it, and that's what everybody has struggles with. There's several reasons why AI models haven't been generated yet, like in real life as art objects. That's why we're doing something that's so exciting, because it just hasn't been done yet. But I literally have to manually model the images in a 3D rendering software, 3D modeling software. I use Rhino, and then I do the construction drawings from that. And so it's very much a manual process after the image generation happens. But soon, pretty much like probably next year, there's going to be text to model generators where I can type in a text and generate a 3-dimensional model. Now they're in early stages with that, but you can already do that basically.
We used to do virtual reality with
Yes, you can write a code.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to Bojana to address the question as well.
First of all, thank you so much for the question, and I would like to connect after if you want to stay, just because that is something that I'm very interested in, and my previous work was called Science of Happiness, and I was creating this virtual VR headsets for people to relax. But I know what you're doing, and it's been done like for children, for adults, like it's just absolutely amazing. My dream is that art installation, like for example, the frequency of colors, they use this deep purple frequency of color that can cure people from diabetes. So imagine instead of going to some kind of room, you know, it's white with whatever, kind of very medical looking. Instead of that, you can walk into art installation and enjoy there while you're being cured. I think it's very interesting. But for me, every time I work with technology, I like to play. I'm kind of like a cat, right? You put something very complex in front of the cat, and cat does this. And then in the process, it turns some buttons, and something happens, and then I'm like, oh, I turned some buttons, something happened. So for me, actually, I find the process, I got the best results when I was just playful. I imagine this, and this, and then I use some of the big words from, I'm just writing it. Some big words from architecture, medicine, you know, porno installation, 3D, this, bang, something amazing happens. And then I notice like, oh, I really like this. I want to recreate many of these. And then I try to explain it. And it creates the worst possible things. So like for me, honestly, it's very different if I were doing this for science or medical research. For me, it's a new technology. Let's see what I can do with it. And I have my own, you know, like aesthetics and kind of what I like to create, what I like to see in the world. That's what I like to create, and so it's very playful.
Nora,
not that can be help, but maybe you can try just to have fun.
Nora?
To be honest, AI is kind of the inspiration for a lot of my work, but I don't even like using like laser cutters or 3D printers. Like I would much rather cut it on the bandsaw if I can help it. So that's just my preferred process. Yeah.
You can always help me because I'd rather somebody else do that.
Yeah, I love this idea of kind of this reluctance to use technology that's emerged in this discussion, amongst many other themes.
Yeah.
The bad news is we are out of time. But the good news is that we certainly can linger. I believe there's still a little bit of food and drink in the lobby as well, and certainly don't want it to be left over at the end of the evening. So please come and speak to our panelists, chat with them more about their work, and continue to chat with each other. And as we already got one plug, I want to repeat that plug to please visit our cultural partner booth this weekend at the Atlanta Art Fair, where you can see work by all of our panelists. So please join me in giving a round of applause, not only in thanks to our panelists, wait, we're not done yet, but also a huge round of applause in acknowledgement of Bernie Robert, who put this entire event together.